Hey everyone. I've been on a couple of forums now that winter's coming and talking with people about how they stay warm when riding in colder weather. I live here in southern Ontario, so winter sort of hits us pretty hard around now, like early December, late November, early December. You might get like a blizzard that shows up in even late October, but it usually all melts. But now I think we're supposed to have an early winter this year. And I've been reading people saying things like, oh, just dress warm and you'll be fine. And I'm gonna call sort of BS on that because I'm not talking here about a 10-minute ride down to the convenience store or like a 20-minute, ride down to your office. I'm talking about an hour out riding in the cold. And when I say cold, I mean anywhere from 0 degrees Celsius to 4 or 5 Celsius on the highway. No matter how warm you dress or however warm gloves you wear, the cold's going to start creeping in, and it's going to start to numb your hands, and it's going to become a problem the longer you're riding. And even if it's not necessarily a dangerous thing, it takes the fun out of doing it. So what I do and what's worked for me is I have actually a heated jacket. So this one, the brand of this one is Gears. There's a couple of different ones out there, but this is a full windbreaker style jacket. It's not protective. This goes under your leather or your protective gear. And what it does is it has thin wires that actually radiate heat, and they have models that hook up to their own battery. Or what I do is I hook it right directly to the bike's battery. So it's got like a little lead here, and inside it has leads for the jacket and for the gloves, because I've got heated gloves as well that hook up to some wires that come out of the sleeves. And I have winter gloves that were rated for -40, and I bought those last year, and I found even those were still freaking cold. Like when you're out riding and the wind is hitting your hands start getting cold. I know people have heated hand grips, but heated gloves keep your hands warm 360, not just the palm that's gripping the handlebar. So this works really, really well. And this puts out a lot of heat. Like I find that when I'm out riding, when I'm at a stop, if I don't have the wind, it actually starts getting really, really warm when I combine it with I wear like a leather jacket. It works really, really well. The next thing is I use almost like, you could use a scarf for this around your neck. I don't know what they call these, like a tube scarf. The idea is that prevents cold from blowing up under your helmet because I have a full face, full visor, but the cold blows up underneath, and I find that my chin starts getting cold, like actually numb from the cold. But this prevents that, and a scarf would work too, but this is just a little more convenient, no risk of it coming off, and it keeps the wind from whipping up under your helmet. Next, I put on, these are like basically ski pants. They're not insulated really, they don't really keep you warm, but they go over top of your jeans or over top of what you're wearing. And number one, they're water resistant, so they keep you dry if the road is a bit damp, or even if it's got a bit of snow, your legs don't get wet and therefore they don't get cold. And this actually worked really, really well. Like I didn't know how well this would actually work, but the layers kept me really, really warm. And then the last thing I do is I got a pair of these like Rockbro knee pads. Now these are not for safety. These are actually meant for people who do bicycling, but what they're really good for is they provide an extra windbreak, because when you're sitting on the bike, like I ride a cruiser, so your knees are like at a 90 degrees, so your knee and your shins are taking the full brunt of the wind, and this provides an extra layer of wind protection plus a bit of mud. You can see like a bit of splash guard, and it keeps your pants, like it keeps the nylon of these away from your exhaust pipes. Because if these things touch your exhaust and they're getting really, really hot, it could melt a little bit. So I wore this combination for the last couple of days, and I never felt cold once. The heated gloves and jacket, the overpants, and the knee pads. The only thing I'm missing is I don't have lined boots. I just have normal riding boots, and I found that after about an hour, my feet start getting cold. They worked for a while, but I think the next investment for me will be like a pair of waterproof / insulated boots, which would sort of perfect the cold weather riding gear. But what's nice about it is most of this gear wasn't that expensive. Like the jacket, I think was $200, give or take. The gloves were about $85, $90. All this stuff was cheap. So you don't have to spend a fortune. And of course, if you're riding, a good windshield will keep the wind off of you. And a full face helmet will keep your ears warm. You don't need anything under your helmet. I know some guys wear balaclavas under their helmet. I tried that, but it made my helmet feel too tight, so I scrapped that. And I just went with the neck thing here to keep draft from blowing up under the helmet. So this has worked really well for me. So if anyone's wondering how do you stay warm when you're riding, this basically makes it for me so that I can ride as long as the road conditions are safe. Like as long as the roads are not wet and slick. And then when the temperature goes down below zero, you of course have black ice. And of course here where I live, they use a lot of salt on the roads. So once they start salting and sanding the roads, it's not a good environment to be riding anyway, but it's no longer about the cold. And this gear can tack about 4 to 6 weeks to your riding season because I can take the bike out a lot earlier. I rode last year in mid-March, right? This year I plan to do the same. So hopefully that's helpful for anyone who's wondering how to stay warm when you're riding in the winter.